This is a real quick learning moment on printing a view. Now, this is in response to a direct question from a student who was thinking ahead. This was going to come up in their community-sponsored project work and asked if I could help them out with a little bit. So I have a few things to say about printing from any web page. I just want to mention a couple things here. If you do a quick search online, you're going to find lots of references out there about printing from ASP.NET, both MVC Razor pages, other approaches as well, and or just printing from HTML in general. And you will find lots of references talk about using the media rule, right? You can have media set to screen or print, and you can have different CSS files to use as well. And that can completely change the look of what you see when you're applying a CSS for print as opposed to display on the screen, right? It can be a lot of fiddly work, right, to get it just right. Give you a lot of control, though. You can, suppress printing elements of the page. You can obviously use totally different fonts and sizes and everything else to really customize the styling of the HTML elements in your document, depending if you want it printed or visually seen on the screen. Like, get rid of all the bright colors and so on that look great on the screen but don't look so good on print, right? It can be a lot of work customizing and approaching. There's some tools out there, some not very many free, that do a very good job, but there are tools out there that can help automate the process for you to some degree as well if you want to fork out a bit of money and things like that. However, in my experience, right, I've just found that a simple approach works most of the time, pretty much all the time, right? Our views are data-driven, and they're really not usually very complex. So I have a few suggestions. I thought of throwing a PowerPoint together so I could, have a drum roll and show you these things and reveal ideas, but really there's not much to it, so I decided not to bother, right? Rule number one, if you have a large amount of data, okay, you've got paging, sorting, filtering, that kind of thing, don't print it, okay? Don't worry about it. Instead, this is where you should export to Excel, right? Your client in the end will be so much happier, right? They can just print it from the Excel once they get it down there. If you do it right, it gives them full control of playing with the data, okay? Locally applying whatever filters they want. You can incorporate that into the data, how you send it down and so on, right? Even for things like a master detail page, right? Just put the master data at the top first and then the table of detailed data underneath, and away you go, right? Much, much better solution in any case where you have a large amount of data or there's a complex arrangement of showing the data on the screen, right? Do it in Excel. It'll just make everyone happier in the end, right? And it's much less work, really, and the work is much more worthwhile by customizing how you put it. And of course, you can style it in Excel. We looked at that. You can make things bold and turn them into like headings and automatically add formulas and so on and so forth, right? Okay. Now, number two, for the other views, even ones that have a table of data, all we really want is a simple print approach. For the most part, the CSS we're using to display the data really doesn't have to be changed. It's usually just a matter of, as I say here, let's define the region or area of the view that you want printed. Throw it inside your own div, right? Mark it as like print area with an ID. And then you can just do a simple call in JavaScript to print it. So you might put a button on the page or something like this. And, rather than worry about walking through the code here in my notepad file, we'll do a quick demonstration, right? So let me move this off to the side now. So here we have our medical office at the end of our last learning moment, number 8, right? By the way, I took out the vapid keys, right? Because those are something you generate on your own. So I don't want to be nagged every time I run the application. And if I might want to go to the employee account to the details. So I've just commented this out for now, right? We aren't going to check for vapid keys. So that just makes our life a little simpler. Let me run the application. I already have the database. I already filled in the darn phone number for the admin account. Wow, I really need to update this, don't I? I only just noticed that. Okay, I'll try to remember to do that before we post. Sorry about that. See, I rely on you students to come and tell me when I'm being a little silly about things like that. All right, So let's just think about some of the reports. I mean, pick a view, any view, right? Patients, right? So here we have all this data. No, if you want to print this, it's not a good idea. Do something like what we're doing here, right? Here we got pages and pages of data and so on. Yeah, it's nice, simple, 4-column table type of thing, but still, we set up the ability to export it to Excel. And then, even with a simple export like this, it's much better. Now, we could do a little bit of work, a much better job of, formatting this, getting it looking nice. We just dumped the data in here, right? You could add automatically some filtering and so on and so forth, making it easy to do that. There's lots that could be done to get the data. But, you can format it nicely, get it ready to print right from your Excel spreadsheet. Way to go, boom. Now, what if you hit Control P for print? Well, yeah, technically, could you print it? Oh, okay, you'd have to change the paging to get all the data, or, why would you just print this? You've got this header showing up top here, with the name of the admin user who's logged in right now, an export button. Doesn't look great, right? This is not a good solution in this case. No. Instead, put it out to Excel. Let's look at this one, though, our appointment reason summary, right? We're grouping. This is a group by. We're grouping by the appointment reasons, showing some related statistics. How many appointments were there for that reason? Totals, okay, maximum, minimum, average, whatever, right? This is a summary report. It's technically, unless you add more appointment reasons, and which is perfectly valid, you might do that over time, but we're not going to grow into a huge amount of data here. This is something we might want to print, but we can definitely improve on this, right? We don't need all this stuff up here and so on and so forth. So why don't we use this as an example of a good candidate to give some more focused and of more effective printing options, right, for this particular view. So that's what we're going to do. So let me stop running for the moment. Okay, so let's go find that view. All right, so that was in the appointment controller. I don't even need to do anything in controller. I'll just come down here to the views, appointment, and here is my appointment reason summary view, right? So what I said is, well, I'm going to throw a little button on here to print, right? So I'll maybe stick it right here. Okay, input, okay, I'll give it an ID. I'll have it float to the right, type as button. It'll say print report, that's fine. And on click, I'll add some JavaScript to print this view, right? But really the key, I kind of skipped over step one, right? And that is, let's define the print area. What area of the view do we actually want to print? Now, I know it's complicated, right? Because this view, it's essentially, gets rendered where? Let's remind ourselves. It doesn't hurt to come back here and remind ourselves of some basic things of how MVC works. Here is the actual full HTML page. Way down here, right? Render body. That's where our view itself gets rendered, inside the context of all of this, right? Well, this is what we want to avoid. We don't want all this menu stuff and all that crap. I mean, all this really good and useful stuff that we have incorporated in the application. I really just want to show the data on this table itself. Now, I might want to actually have, okay, this appointment reason summary and things like that. I could include the title if I really wanted to as well, but I don't think there's much point in that. Maybe I'll do it just to show you. No, it's okay. I'll just stick our, no, not the same thing again. Just my little div here, right? You don't have to use the same ID that I'm using here, but the point is, right, I'm going to define a print area. So I want everything from here down to the end of the table, right? Now I'll go Control KD. Oh, Control to fix the indentation. There we go. All right. So I've defined this as the print area. This is what I want to show. I could even have this view the title in there, but it doesn't really matter. Okay. All right. So, and then I have my print button. So really, I've done most of the heavy work. I just have to actually add my JavaScript. So we're going to use, again, our section scripts, right? And I'll just copy it right out of my copy-paste file here. Give us a chance to kind of walk through it a little bit, though, and talk about it, right? So here, my function print view, that gets called when I on click of this button, right? Very, very basic JavaScript approach, right? So what I'm going to do, first of all, my button print itself, Okay, I don't want that for print. It's inside my print area, but I don't want it to print. So I can simply do this. I'll grab it, okay, a reference to it here with get element by ID, and set the display to none. Okay, that's it. So now it will be set so it's hidden, right? Now here's the really neat thing. Get element by ID print area. That's my div that I just added. So this will get basically the HTML, the body of what I really want to print, right? So I'm going to call that my print area. So it goes and gets all the HTML inside the actual div itself. Now I'm going to create a new window. I'm going to call it print window. I'll just use window.open. You know, you can play around with these. I don't even necessarily need all of these options and so on, but you know, play around with these values to your heart's content. But that just gets a print window, so to speak, open, right? Now I'm doing some extra stuff that you could actually almost skip, right? But I found that different browsers, they add a header and footer. Some don't. Chrome does, okay? Edge doesn't seem to do that, and there's other browsers out there you might be using as well. So just to suppress them for a consistent output, okay, we can actually start writing into the actual document of this new window we opened. So I need a proper HTML head. I'm going to throw as a title in here. I figured, why not? Put the appointment reason summary. Put that in as the title of the document. You know, it'll possibly show up in some and not in others, but it doesn't hurt having it there. Here's what I'm doing. Here I'm adding a style using that media print. Notice we have to, because we're in an MVC page, I can't have a single @ character because that's used by Razor syntax, right? So I have to have two of them. So media print, I'm going to define the margin of the page to 0. The reason I'm doing that is I am suppressing or hiding, okay, the header and footer. Now, if you just want to hide the footer, you know, you could just do the margin bottom instead of it and things like that, right? But I'm just going to hide the whole header, footer, that whole business by setting the margin of the page to 0, right? And that will basically hide the header and footer regions, right? Okay, all right. So that finishes off the head, and then we're ready to start the body of the page. Okay, now what am I going to do next? I'm going to do another document right, grab that print area. That's my div that I define the area I want to print, and grab the inner HTML. So I write that into the document next, and then I just call document.close. So that finishes writing the document. Then I can just call print on my print window, okay? And then after we print, okay, I'll set the display of my print button back to block so it will be visible once again, and call close on the print window itself, right? So all of this business is just about suppressing the header and footer. Now, if you don't mind the header and footer, by all means, leave it there, right? Just basically take this line out, right? And you can leave it there and away you go. But let's just see what the effect is of doing it the way I have it for now. I'll just do a save. We can run it again here. I think I'm coming up in Edge, if I remember right at the moment. Log in once again. Okay, so let's come up. Now our appointment reason summary. So now I have my print report button, okay? I can click that, and here I can see my preview here. See, it has nice and plain, right? No menu, no header, footer, anything. And I can print with Microsoft Print to PDF, or just this is the browser's own, save as PDF. Or, you know, if I've got other printers around, then I can select them to print it to as well, right? It doesn't really matter. Okay. And it does work, right? I'll go with this one. I'll do a print. It's going to save it. And I can go bring it up. There it is. Okay, nice, clean, and simple report. You know, if you want to, you can take it further than this, but that's entirely up to you. Let me just come back. Let's open in Chrome. I have to log in here. Okay, when I do print report here, looks a little different. Okay, that's the browser. We're using the browser's own print capability. So there's save as PDF, right? Or I could select any other printers I see on my local network and so on and so forth, right? And away we go. So it'll work just the same way. All right, I'm just going to cancel. You can see it'll come up with the exact same output, right? So that's as simple as that. It's a nice, easy approach that gives you more or less what it is you actually need. And yeah, that's about it. Away you go. Maybe I'll play around. Let's come back here for a second. Let me just show you if we... let's take this out. Save. Do a hot reload. Okay, coming back here. All right, then you see we actually have the title, right? There's a footer here with the page number, the date, and so on. Yeah, I'll go ahead and save. Okay, I'll put it here. Okay, so you see the difference. Because I allowed the margins, right? We have the appointment reason summary. That was that. Remember, we added a title to the document, so that shows up here in the header that Chrome automatically adds. Now, at the bottom, there's a page number, 1 of 1, and about blank. Yeah, maybe you don't really care for the about blank, or maybe you can decide to live with it, right? Here's the actual title. There's no way in JavaScript to change that. That's a feature built into Chrome itself, right? So there's not an easy fix for that. But, maybe you like having the margins. If you don't, then just do it the way I showed you in the code. Let me just, first of all, bring it up back in Edge again, right? We'll just do a refresh. Oh, I'll have to log in again. Yeah, so here we are. Notice that in Edge, there's no difference, right? Because it doesn't add anything in the header and footer. So the fact that we're showing the margins makes no difference here in Edge. But anyway, so if you want it more consistent, leave it the way I had it originally, right, where you're suppressing the margins. Or you can show them if you want to play around with that, and so on and so forth. You could change it so you're just hiding the footer and showing the header. It's entirely up to you, right? But it gives you some ideas. You can start with this and then play with it to your heart's content. Do as you wish. All right. That's the end of this quick little learning moment.